The life you didn't choose. At some point, and you'll know exactly what I mean, something stops fitting. Not dramatically, not all at once. More like a shoe you've been wearing for years that suddenly feels wrong on your foot. You haven't changed, the shoe hasn't changed, but something in you has become too honest to pretend it was ever really yours. This is the uncarved. 1. The moment the script breaks. Most people don't have a single dramatic awakening. No lightning bolt, no vision, no morning where everything suddenly becomes clear. What happens instead is quieter and in some ways harder. A slow accumulation of moments where you catch yourself performing a life you don't fully recognize. You're in the middle of a conversation and you hear yourself say something you don't believe. You're doing the thing you were supposed to want, the job, the relationship, the version of success that made sense to everyone around you. And underneath it, very quietly, something is asking, is this actually mine? That question is not a crisis. It is the first honest thing you've allowed yourself to feel in a long time. 2. How we inherit a life. Nobody sat you down and handed you a script. It doesn't work that way. It works through repetition, through what was rewarded and what was punished, through the face your mother made when you said you wanted something different, through the silence that followed when you tried to be someone they hadn't planned for. The psychologist James Hollis, who spent decades in the consulting room with people in the middle of this, observed something that stops you cold when you really hear it. Most people, he said, are not living their own life. They are living a response to their history, not a choice, a reflex. The child who learned that love was conditional becomes the adult who exhausts themselves trying to earn it. The child who learned that ambition was dangerous becomes the adult who quietly shrinks every time something good begins to grow. The child who learned that their feelings were inconvenient becomes the adult who can explain everything and feel almost nothing. None of this was decided. All of it was absorbed. And the tragedy, the real tragedy, is not that it happened. It's that it runs so deep we confuse it with identity. This is just who I am. No, it is who you learned to be in order to survive a particular set of circumstances that no longer exist. 3. The Tao of not forcing. The Tao Te Ching has a chapter that puzzled scholars for centuries. It says, to know others is wisdom. To know yourself is enlightenment. Not intelligence, not achievement, enlightenment. The Taoists understood something that takes most people a lifetime to arrive at, that the greatest distance a human being can travel is not outward, it is inward. And the obstacle on that journey is not ignorance, it is the accumulated weight of everything you've been told you are. Wu Wei, effortless action, is not passivity. It is what happens when you stop spending energy moving against your own nature. Think about that for a moment. How much of your daily effort goes toward maintaining a version of yourself that doesn't fit? The exhaustion you feel, the kind that sleep doesn't fix, the kind that sits in your chest on Sunday evenings. That is not weakness. That is the cost of living at a distance from yourself. 4. What waking up actually feels like. Here is something nobody tells you about the moment you start to see clearly. It doesn't always feel like freedom. Sometimes it feels like grief. Because when you start to recognize how much of your life was built around a story you didn't write, there is loss in that. Real loss. The years spent chasing someone else's version of success. The relationships built on a version of you that was never entirely true. The things you didn't say, the directions you didn't take, all of it surfaces. And the temptation, a very human temptation, is to turn that grief into anger, to find someone to blame, the parents, the culture, the circumstances. But the Taoists would say, the river doesn't blame the banks that shaped it. It simply finds a new direction. And Buddhism would add, it is not the wound that defines you. It is what you do in the moment after you recognize it. That moment, right now, for whoever is listening, is not too late. It is, in fact, the only moment there has ever been. 5. A practice. Noticing the costume. This week, not as a project, not as something to solve, just notice. Notice the moments when you shrink, not dramatically, just slightly. The way you adjust your tone for a particular person, the way you frame something differently depending on who's listening, the opinion you swallow because the room doesn't feel safe enough. Don't judge it, don't try to change it, just see it. Because poo, the uncarved block, doesn't require you to destroy everything that was built over it. It simply asks you to remember that the building is not the ground. You are not your adaptations. They were intelligent. They served a purpose. They kept you safe when safety required a costume. But you are not the costume. You never were. There will be a moment. Maybe it has already happened. Maybe it is still coming. When the life you've been living feels too small for what you actually are. When that moment comes, don't rush past it. Don't immediately reach for a plan, a solution, a new version of yourself to construct. Just stay there. In that discomfort, in that honest, difficult space between the life you inherited and the life that is actually yours. That space is not emptiness. It is poo, the uncarved, the place where something true can finally begin. Until next time, move slowly. That is enough.